The first thing she said to me wasn't a scream or a curse. It was a plea that still echoes in my head years later. Have mercy, Cowboy. My body will give you powerful offspring. I was standing there with a rifle in my hands, dust in my throat, and the weight of a decision that could either ruin or redefine the kind of man I was. In that moment, with everyone expecting brutality, I did something that made my own men stare at me like I'd lost my mind. So tell me honestly, was I wrong for choosing mercy when violence would have been easier? To understand how I ended up there, you have to know who I was back then. I was a hired scout working with a group of settlers, pushing west. The kind of man who'd seen enough blood to stop flinching at it. We were told the Apache band in the area was dangerous, that they'd raided caravans and killed families. Fear was the currency we traded in, and I believed every word of it because believing made it easier to pull a trigger. When we tracked their camp at dawn, the fight was fast and chaotic. Smoke, shouting, horses screaming. When it was over, most of them had fled into the hills. That's when I found her hiding behind a broken wagon, shaking but defiant, her chin lifted even as my shadow fell over her. She couldn't have been much older than me, but her eyes carried something ancient, like she'd already lived a dozen lives. My men wanted her tied up, wanted to drag her back as proof of victory. I didn't stop them at first. I told myself it wasn't my problem, that this was just how things were done out here. But as we rode, she spoke. Not begging at first, just asking questions about where we were going, what we planned to do. Then when we stopped for water, she looked straight at me and said that line. It wasn't seductive. It was desperate, strategic, and heartbreaking. She was telling me her life mattered, that her future mattered, that killing or abusing her would erase something irreplaceable. That night I couldn't sleep. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw her standing there, dirt on her face, refusing to look away. I thought about the stories I'd heard, the way we painted entire people as monsters so we wouldn't have to see them as human. By morning, my gut was twisted in knots. The men joked about selling her, about teaching her a lesson. Each laugh felt like a hammer hitting my chest. I knew if I stayed silent, I'd be just as guilty. So that's the situation I was in, trapped between the expectations of violent men and the quiet voice in my head, telling me this was wrong. Before I tell you what happened next, I want you to pause for a second and ask yourself what you would have done. Would you have gone along with the group to protect yourself? Or would you have risked everything to do what felt right? Drop a comment and tell me, because at that moment, I truly didn't know if I was about to throw my life away. When the sun came up, I made my choice. I told the men we were letting her go. They laughed at first, then they got angry. One of them stepped toward me, hand on his gun, asking who I thought I was. My heart was pounding so hard I thought they could hear it, but I didn't back down. I said if anyone touched her, they'd have to go through me first. The standoff felt like it lasted forever. Finally, someone spat in the dirt and said she wasn't worth the trouble. I cut her bindings myself. She didn't run right away. She looked at me, really looked at me, and nodded once, like she was memorizing my face. The aftermath wasn't heroic. I lost my job. Word spread that I was soft, unreliable. Work dried up. There were nights I wondered if I'd made a mistake, if mercy was a luxury men like me couldn't afford. But years later, I ran into a trader who told me about an Apache woman who'd become a leader, someone who negotiated peace instead of war. I'll never know if it was her, but I like to think it was. I like to think that one small act of defiance against cruelty mattered. Looking back, that moment taught me something I carry to this day. Strength isn't about domination or fear. Sometimes it's about standing alone and saying no when the world expects you to say yes. Like this video if you were on my side. Subscribe for more stories like this, and share your final thoughts on this whole mess in the comments section. I'll see you all in the next story.